We have now talked about the observable collection of T. It's time for us to start using it. And because this is a class, using it is going to be way more straightforward than implementing an interface. I am here in the history page, where I want to change the current list of posts that I'm constantly setting as the item source on the onAppearing method and make it an observable collection. The way I want to do this is by creating a view model. So I'm going to create a new class inside of the view model folder that is going to be called HistoryVM. The HistoryVM class has to be public and it is going to have a property. And it is this property, the one that is going to be an observable collection. We have to specify the type for the collection, which in this case is going to be post, and I will need a using directive to use the post class, as well as a using directive to use the observable collection class. The name of the property is simply going to be posts. Back in the history page, I am going to define a HistoryVM object that is going to be viewModel, and that I'm going to be initializing in the constructor. And I'm going to set the binding context for the entire page to be this viewModel. And it is to the posts property of this new viewModel, the one that we want to bind to the item source of the list view. But we still need to add all of the elements that are being read. So instead of the onAppearing, the first thing that I want to do is access the viewModel's posts and clear all of the posts. So now there are no posts inside. After that, I want to iterate through each and every one of the posts. And that post is going to be added to the viewModel's posts through the add method. Like this. The reason why I'm clearing the viewModel's posts is because I don't want to keep adding new elements. Maybe those elements already exist. So I am clearing that before doing anything. And now that I have that in the history page.saml, where I currently have the list view, I have to set the item source, because I'm no longer setting the item source from C#. But now I can do a binding to the posts property that comes from the viewModel. Because the viewModel is set as the binding context for the entire page, one of its properties, in this case the posts object, can be easily set through binding to one of the elements inside of the content page. And so now we have moved the definition of the list to the HistoryVM, which is going to be the viewModel for the history page, and we are initializing a new instance of that VM and setting it as the binding context for the entire page. We are currently doing this functionality inside of the view, and that is not the ideal. So I am going to cut this functionality, and all I want to do is call a new method from the viewModel, which is going to be called updatePosts. And of course, currently it doesn't exist, but all I have to do on Visual Studio is type Ctrl dot to generate that method, and it's going to be generated inside of the history viewModel. Or you can just define it. I will change its definition from internal to be public. And it's in here where I want the functionality. Of course, in here I don't have to access the posts through the viewModel because it is a local property. And because I am calling an async method, that is the read method from the post class, I do need to make this an async method as well. And again, I won't be accessing through the viewModel, but through the local property. And finally, another thing that we need is to initialize the posts property. And I'm going to do that from the constructor of the history page. The posts property is going to be equal to a new observable collection of posts. And now all of the functionality comes from the viewModel. Back in the view, all I'm doing is calling the update posts. By the way, I don't need to set this as async anymore. And setting the viewModel as the binding context for the entire page. So let's go ahead and test this on a simulator. As soon as I log in, we see that the functionality is a bit off. We are displaying elements twice, but if we navigate back to that history page, it is only displayed once. This is because the first time that the application launches, the onAppearing method is called twice. And the update posts then is going to be called twice. Both times the clear is going to be executed very quickly. and then the posts are going to be read. But this is going to be happening twice in two different threads. And when the posts are read from the database, the posts have already been cleared. So we receive this twice, and hence each element is added twice. We're going to solve it in just a second. But you see how by just navigating back, we have solved that without having to set the binding context over and over. We just set it once. And if we add another element with some random text and some random selected value, and we save it, when we navigate back, it has been also added. So let's solve this issue that happens the first time the application launches. All we have to do is make sure that the list is only cleaned after we receive the posts. And in fact, I am going to evaluate if posts is different than null before doing so. If it is, then I am going to clear the posts variable or all of the elements inside of the observable collection, and then I am going to iterate throughout these posts. So the next time that I open the application and that I log in, the posts are only going to be displayed once, because this time we are reading from the database, and only after having read from the database do we clear this out. So we are awaiting, even if it is still being executed twice, we are first waiting for the database to be read. And after that, we're going to perform this operation. Before we were clearing even before receiving the posts. So once cleared, we received the posts and the posts were added. So there we have it. This is how we use the observable collection of T.